My revolution is that I move towards liberation and freedom every single
Yeah.
day for me and for my people. And the way that I do that is through shaking the system of education.
Welcome to the What's Your Revolution show. Show for men and the people who love them. Where we discuss how men can find and embrace the revolution within themselves. Where people can find and embrace the revolution within themselves. I am your host, Dr. Charles Corprew. What's good, revolutionaries? I hope all is well. I'm not even going to go through my usual diatribe with you all to talk about where you are in your life, what season it is, how I'm enjoying life, or where I've been and what I'm doing, because I want to jump right into this conversation with this gem, this like juggernaut, this like all of the big words that you can think of, like all of the adjectives that are remarkable to explain who this woman is. And yes, I just said woman because you're like, wait, you got a woman on the show? Yes, we got a woman on the show because when you meet Dr. Shameka Gerald, you will be like, yes, you have to have her on the show. This woman, think of any adjective that is about greatness and then 10x it. That is my friend, Dr. Shameka Gerald. So I want to welcome her to the What's Your Revolution show. Shameka, what's good? How are you? I am excited for this conversation. When I told folks like I got Dr. Shameka Gerald coming on to the show, they were like, what? I was like, yes, shout out to my boy, Dr. Phil Echols, because he was like, as he said, I'm fangirling her. I was like, we don't fangirl, we fanboy. But he was like, what? So what's good? What's good, homie?
What's good? What's good? Thank you for having me. Thank you for all the wonderful things, the affirmations that you shared. Thank you for seeing me, number one. And thank you for creating this space for men and people who love them, because I do love Black men. And
and they love you.
Hey, I'm a Black woman. So let's just start off. Let's start off with some things that we need to clear. Maybe you need to clarify. I am a Black woman.
Yeah.
And I love Black men.
Yeah.
My father's a Black man. My husband's a Black man. My son is a Black man. I have spent my career servicing our community, our Black community. So I just appreciate the opportunity to be here. And like one thing I will tell people, and I told you this, I'm just a regular girl out here trying to shake the system. Just regular, me and Cardi, just trying to be regular out here. Just Libras out here trying to be regular.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. A Taurus and a Libra have a conversation. What's gonna happen? I have no clue.
It's gonna be the best conversation in the world.
I cannot wait. Look, revolutionaries. If you listen to this, I just want you to do a Google search for Dr. Shameka Gerald, SHAMEKA and you will see all of the things that this woman is. But what you don't get to see in person is just how dope she is, like literally how dope of a human. And I'm gonna tell the origin story, because that seems to be the term of 2024.
Yes, I need your origin story.
That's right. Can you tell me your origin story? So I have been seeing this queen for the last probably 18 months. Let's call it 18 months. Well, no, because I haven't been at Assembly 18 months. Let's say the last 14 months. Shout out to the good folks at Assembly, Savannah Boland and her team.
Absolutely.
Drew and the wonderful building that is Assembly, where I work out of, and actually Dr. Shameka worked out of as well with Yellow. We'll get to that in a second. I work at 757 CoLab as the chief of staff and senior venture partner. We'll throw all that out. But I would see this queen like come down the steps at Assembly all the time, and she would give me the ceremonial. Like not just, and I'm like, okay, who is this person? But it was always this ceremonial. Okay, so I'm gonna give you the ceremonial like okay. Irony, a year later, almost a year after we continue to give each other the ceremonial wave, like I get a message in my LinkedIn messages like, hey, You know Antoinette Banks, and revolutionists, we all know who Antoinette Banks is. Antoinette Banks is the CEO and founder of Expert IEP, who was also the 2023 recipient of Pharrell's Black Ambition Award, $1 million given to her for all of the great work that Expert IEP is doing. Somehow, these two extremely powerful Black women find each other and get together and begin to have a conversation. And somehow Dr. Charles Corprew comes up. And from my understanding, you can tell the story is that, oh, I need to talk to Dr. Charles Corprew. Yeah, I see that dude. Yeah, I
That's
see that dude.
exactly kind of how it went down,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, exactly. I see that dude assembly. I think I know him. Oh, well, maybe you should talk to him. Yeah, maybe I should say something to him after a
Maybe.
year. And so I get a message in my DM. Are you gonna be at work tomorrow? I'm like, I don't know you. We just get the ceremonial hello. I don't know you, but yes, because I want to know who you are and finally have a conversation. So then we try to meet each other, like back and forth. I'm gonna be here. No, you're not. Yes, all these things. So we finally meet. All of a sudden, we become the fastest of friends. And the admiration that I have for Dr. Shameka Gerald is always highlighted by the immense robustness of my hello to her when I see her, because I'm like, I get to spend some time with her today. So that is how we met. We had been fast friends, and this admiration for this amazing leader in education and across the world is here. So thank you for gracing me, giving me the grace of first the how and then the hello. So that is our origin story. And then now being able to sit with her on a regular basis to hear about her greatness and how she's leading education. I want to drop all the way down, though. You were a math teacher.
Yes.
Yeah, you were a math teacher. What's that origin story? How did you get into education? Yeah.
So my trajectory into education is non-traditional.
Mm,
I will say, so I am also a deeper learning equity fellow. We had to do a lot of work around origin story. And so I really had to think about what got me to the point that I was. And I have been a disruptor since birth.
mm,
And I think about it like this, birth is like the most disruptive experience in people's lives, right? I am born and my parents now have a child.
yeah.
So like it is a disruption. It is a positive disruption, but it is a disruption nonetheless. And I went to a Black Catholic school, St. Mary's Academy in Norfolk.
Yeah.
I was raised in African principles very early. The nuns, Sister Barbara, Sister Peggy, took real good care of me. TQ was the priest at the time. And I transitioned to public school where I was then identified as having ADHD, auditory processing disorder, all of the things, which I do, like realistically, I have them. And my public school experience was one of disruption. I'm a Black female. So show up in spaces speaking louder than people would like me to speak. And it is automatically, she talks too much. Question. I have a sense of social justice that is embedded in me. I question. So it's like, oh, I'm questioning authority. Yeah, I am. I mean, I was raised by my mother, who is a feminist. Ms. Magazine came to our house every month. My dad is a Black man from Norfolk, Virginia, and we listened to Gil Scott-Heron in our home, Jimi Hendrix. So I have always been like this. What got me to education was like the first time that somebody told me I was different and I couldn't do what my friends did was because I was not good at math. I almost did not graduate high school because of math.
Wow.
So when I went to college, I started at TCC in Math 01. Mike Kirby, I will tell this story constantly, still works at TCC in Virginia Beach. He might be in Norfolk now. Took time and created space to help me understand the processes. Because I have ADHD, I have very linear thinking, and no one had taken time to teach me processes to really work in math. And I was going to be a computer engineer. And then I took my first coding course and I was like, oh, we're not doing that. No. But if I was thinking, it might have been a different like pay grade because that was like back in the day.
Right.
But I decided that I wanted to have young people not have the experience I had in school. So that's why I became a teacher. So most teachers, a lot of teachers have this experience. I was a teacher. I played teacher. I want to be a teacher. No, I was playing soccer. I was outside roughing, tumbling it with the boys, running down my grandma's street with no shoes on, racing. Like trying to sneak down, because you know grandma said you can't go but so far, so you're seeing
Right,
how
right.
far you can go. But
Yeah,
Miss
yeah.
Annabelle lived right there, so when we would go, she would say, y'all better go home. And then by the time we got there, my grandma already had a phone call. So like my journey to education was not necessarily traditional. I started at community college. I went to Old Dominion and got
Yeah.
a degree in applied mathematics, and
Wow.
faced very clear biases against Black women in mathematics. Like all of my teachers were white men, like all of them. And there was one class in particular, I think it was Calc 2 or applied differential equations, either one. Doesn't matter. That's lost on some folks out there. It's okay. But the teacher took 14 points off of my paper. We only had 2 questions on the test.
Wait, what?
14. Now, when you get in those classes, it's like one problem.
Figure it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, figure it out. So he took, he was like, oh, you missed a negative sign. And I was like, no, I didn't. And he calls me, like, I didn't say it. I took my paper up to the desk. I said, hey, I know that this is right. And he was like, you missed a negative sign. I was like, I don't think I did. If you look at the work, he calls me, do it on the board then.
Ooh, what?
So disruptor, I get up there and do it. And he was like, oh, I missed it. Oh, okay. Fix my paper. Thank you.
Give me my 14 points back.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So my trajectory to education was not traditional. I did not start out wanting to be a teacher, nor was I what people would call a good student. My aunt was a teacher at Booker T in Norfolk, and Cynthia James Watson,
Booker.
fighting Bookers, the mighty Bookers.
Yeah.
Cynthia Watson was the principal, and she called me and asked me, did I want a job? ODU was like, you need to student teach. You can't take a job yet. And so I did all of my student teaching at Booker T and then started teaching there. And that's how my career started.
Wow.
So going from not graduating high school, almost not graduating high school, to
because of math.
To
becoming a math teacher. Yeah.
And a good one. Dare I say, the best. I mean, I did win an award from President Obama in 2008 for mathematics, but whatever. You know.
This is why I love talking to Dr. Shameka Gerald, because nothing is lost. Nothing is lost on Dr. Joe. But that is an interesting story, because that in itself is a revolution. Like, to go from, the precipice of not, getting a high school diploma to now I'm going to then move into this space where I'm teaching kids. And anybody who knows, if you're not from the 757, Booker T. Washington is one of the most historic high schools in the region. My father went to Booker T. Washington High School. He would love to tell you. He would love to tell you his journey of being the drum major for the band at Booker T. Washington High School. He was always a wonderful alumnus and believed in his high school as much as I believe in my beloved Green Run. He loved Booker T. Washington just as much as I did. So it's interesting, because now you're in this setting with, students who look like us, right? Who are budding, who want to see the world, who want to experience the world, but now have someone who can tell a story of, hey, I was about to fail out of high school, or at least not graduate from high school because I couldn't pass math. Now I'm going to teach you the things that I know so you can move this into the world. So that's an amazing experience. But you didn't stay there, right? I think that's the correlation and camaraderie that you and I have, is that both of us were teachers. I ended up teaching history because I loved history so much that then I got into psychology, my passion that is, stayed with me, throughout my lifespan, particularly in education. But you left, you didn't leave, you left the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
And many people will say, like, well, you went to the dark side, you became an administrator. Tell us about that journey from moving to the classroom and into the, assistant principal, and then running your own high school. And I'll ask the question, but some people will say, even Rashad, and Rashad will say, when you become a high school principal, you become like a queen or king. Like, it's a kingdom. People don't understand. Like, when you become a high school principal, it is like I am opening an oasis. And I never understood that because I never got there. But talk about that journey from teacher to the administrator, and then having the keys to the kingdom.
Well, I think one thing that, excuse me, sorry, Sekou. Sorry, Sekou. Sorry about that. One thing I will say is I didn't start with wanting to be an administrator. A lot of teachers go in and they feel like their trajectory is, oh, I have to be a principal. And some people see the pinnacle of success in education, aside from a superintendency, is high school principalship.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is about high school principalship that people think is so super sexy. It can be. I mean, you do, but I had no intention of being a principal or an administrator. I was going to do curriculum work. And one day, Miss Watson, principal at Booker T, asked me to be the freshman transition lead. And I was like, nah, I'm good. And I thought that was the end of it. When she introduced me to the assistant superintendent, like the following week, his name is Gene Jones. She said, oh yeah, this is Shameka. Yeah, like she was like, this is Shameka. Hardy was my last name at the time. She is the freshman transition lead. And I'm like, yep, that's me. That's me.
She manifested it for you.
And Gene Jones knows my dad, so I'm not going to say no.
Right.
So I didn't think principalship was like on my path, but that goes to having people in your life that see something in you that you don't see in yourself and are willing to, they call it the learning edge right now, right? You know, we always got something we gonna say real cool, but she was willing to push me outside of my comfort zone because I believe she saw something in me that I was unwilling to recognize in myself in that time. So we did freshman transition lead. I was teacher of the year for high school, I think that year. And then this is like people don't get like what happens when you're good at something. Like I applied for an assistant principal role in Norfolk because I thought I would stay in Norfolk forever. And because I love Norfolk, and I didn't get the job. And I was like, okay. Because I know ain't nobody out interview me.
Not Shameka.
Not me. I mean, it was my first interview, but still. But it was because, and they won't say it openly, but because when you bring value in an area like mathematics that is hard to fill, it's hard to say you're going to take them out of a position that's going to be empty.
Right.
And Miss Watson was not blocking me. Like nobody was trying to block me, but you know, they didn't pick me. So I stayed another year and then I applied in Newport News and Hampton. And this is like, the long story is because there's some really intentional stuff that happens here. I applied in Hampton. I got a middle school job as an AP. I got a phone call from Newport News. They were I got high school AP in Hampton. Newport News called me for a middle school interview. And I'm not going to break my interview. I'm just going to interview. And if you extend the offer, I'm going to decline.
Right.
Be a professional. I interviewed and they were like, we want to offer you high school API, which is a 12-month position where you do master scheduling, SOL testing, all of the instructional work for the school.
Wow.
I was like, what? Who? Me?
Me?
So I was hired straight from the classroom into a 12-month AP position, which is, so it's like these places in your life where you talked on a previous podcast and yes, I listened to your podcast. Don't get your big head on, but I know how you do. I know how you do.
I got a story about somebody listening to my podcast and where it got them. Let me tell you.
Levitating out of your chair almost. I just need you to
I'm telling you.
Regular.
Call me Kazoo.
But you talk about the point of ordinary or extraordinary. I think that was mentioned somewhere, or ordinary or revolutionary. And it was like a point, right? And so I could take the Hampton job, or I could take this job that I was like, I don't even know how to build a master schedule, but I guess I'll figure it out.
Right.
And I took this job that was a 12-month AP position and did that at Denby High School for 4 years and got a phone call. And Denby at the time was the multilingual school. So they had over 40 languages there. So working and learning about cross-cultural and intercultural competence firsthand. So not just from my childhood lived experience with my mom from the panhandle of Texas and my dad from Norfolk, but then understanding the differences and the nuances in culture is what I learned there. And then I got a phone call saying, hey, you might be interested in this principal position coming up. I was like, I don't know. Maybe. But I applied and, in the school system, you might know this. They don't ever tell you what the school is that you're applying for. They're just interviewing for principal.
Right.
So I didn't know it was Heritage. And then here I'm sitting at the table with Dr. Ashby Kilgore and Brian Nichols. Shout out to them because I had never been a principal before. I had just been an AP for about 4 years, and they trusted me to lead such a beautiful school community. Much like Booker T, Heritage has a lot of history in Newport News, especially in the Black community. I call those schools like the little HBCUs.
I love that.
Hey,
I love that.
Because there is tradition, there is history, and honoring that history is critical. And so I was hired, and that's the story. You said you get the keys to like the kingdom, and I entered my experience much differently than that because I was like, my boss at the time, Susan Tilley, love her. She is one of the most beautiful allies I've had in my life around my work. But they give you the keys and they say, here you go. And you just pull up and your name is on the thing and you have your little parking space and you walk in. And that's it.
And they let you build the kingdom. They let
you build it.
They let you build the kingdom. I think that's the wonderful thing. There are a couple of things I want to pull out in that journey that I hear. I always tend to say, like, people are like, well, how did you get here? And I actually wrote it in a piece maybe about a week ago, is that every time I felt like I was about to fall off, the next beam came. And I wasn't always ready. I think I heard that similarity, is that it wasn't that you were about to fall off, but you were just walking. You're walking along this path. I'm a math teacher. All right, but I'm shining. And that's what the thing about, and I think for you is that when you're shining, the next beam is coming because it sees the light. You see what I'm saying? It sees the light. This beam is like, oh, I need to go in this direction to meet this light, right? To galvanize this next piece of what's going on. And all of a sudden that next beam comes, and then you're walking along with that beam. Right? And interestingly enough, if I'm painting this picture, potentially there was somebody like sees the light, so I'm gonna just like slide this beam along because I'm gonna slide because I need to disrupt. You see the thing? I need to disrupt her journey for a second, right, to move her along this path. And now all of a sudden, and then somebody sees that the light is getting brighter and brighter. Oh, we're gonna slide this beam in here, right? And then you're walking in a different direction. And so it's interesting. And then you get to be a high school principal, and like all of a sudden, I also hear this theme of these wonderful, wonderful people believing in this. And I'm going to say this younger version of you. And I often think that at our stage of our careers, like, we are those people now pushing beams for other folks.
Yeah.
Hey, Mr. Charles.
Hey, Mr. Charles.
Hey, Mr. Charles. Hey, it's the doctor. But hey, hey, Mr. Charles. But we're the ones pushing those beams. And that is the interesting piece now. I often wonder, and I'm going to ask you this question, is that at this stage of your career, in this lofty stage, and you're the managing partner, managing director of implementation at 2 Revolutions now, where do you see like mentorship coming for you? Because you're now seen as Dr. Shameka Gerald, the mentor. People are sliding into your DMs. Hey, I see what you're doing. Can I get 5 minutes, 15 minutes, a half hour, an hour? But where does that mentorship come for you at this stage?
So I think I love the way that you phrased the beam, and then the disruption is not always me. It's about other people disrupting my journey.
Yeah.
And I will say the high school principalship is the best job I have ever had. Hands down. I did it for 6 years. I loved every
minute,
second of it because it wasn't about me. It was about young people. And when I tell you, when you give young people the power to do what they know is best for themselves, they can change the world. Those young people changed that. It was not me. I just created the space for them to do that. And I believe that was, in the way that you described it, was me putting the beams in front of them.
Yes.
Like, I see your light in this entire community, regardless. I don't care what you look like, how old you are, where you've been. I see your light. So let me try to put as many beams in front of this community, in front of each young person as I can. So I love the way that you phrase that. And it's funny you say our older version of ourselves, because I still see myself as that third grader.
Yeah.
I still see myself as sitting in a desk, having someone tell me, you don't get to do this science project, which you already know how to figure out and you have already completed in your head because you don't know your times tables. And to make sure that you don't get to do it, we're going to put headphones on you and make you listen to a record. Yes, I am that old that there was a record player in my classroom. But to get back to the question about where do I find mentorship, I will say I have been blessed with people in my life that have been wonderful sponsors for me, not just mentors, but sponsors. I would be remiss to not mention Felicia Hatcher. Like,
dope.
Like, I have probably talked to Felicia maybe 3 or 4 times since I was at Yellow, right? Because I met her periodically. But to watch how she picks apart being uninterrupted, and picks apart Zone of Genius, Gay Hendricks' work, and like it to me is mentorship in that way that helps me better understand myself, and also seeing another Black woman in dope glasses and bold lip and big earrings
I love
do that
her.
work.
Yes.
But also I find mentorship in my garden. So I do have a dope circle of women. Dr. Charles and Sekou, I just need y'all to be patient. I don't tell people who I know because it feels weird to me. It just feels weird. But I have a dope circle of women that surround me. One of my sisters, Dr. Yari Bell Mercedes, the big Dr. Yari. We're not going to take no respect off her name.
Right.
And, you know, Dr. Goldie Muhammad, Dr. Yoli Sealy Ruiz. Like, I've got like a community of women around me who literally will go toe to toe, blow for blow. Carla, I can't say enough about Carla Godoy, Cruz, Eunice Mitchell. Like, I could name my circle, my beloved community. Like, they got me in ways that it's reciprocal relationships. It's about community, like in the bell hooks definition of love and community.
Wow.
I'm not gonna let me not forget our Black men that are in that circle, because I will highlight Black women because I am a Black woman. But like Greg Lucas, Carlos Moreno, Dr. Caleb Rashad are some really dope brothers out here doing work. But when I'm feeling like I am shaking or trembling, they aren't. Rashad is one of them. I know we weren't going to mention his name on the podcast again, but
man, you got 4 times Rashad.
Rashad, right? And my husband. Like, let's not Jimmy Gerald. That's my boo. But there's a dope circle of people that surround me. So it's also about reciprocal relationships. Timothy Jones, we were on Hip Hop Ed's Twitter space the other night, and he is my brother for real. And we have a really good reciprocal relationship. And he equated it to, you have people that you pour into from your picture. You're right. And he was like, our relationship is I pour into her and she pours into me. And so we're both pictures pouring into each other when we need it.
So it's never empty.
It's never empty. So I think mentorship for me right now looks like community, beloved. It's beloved community. It is coalition. It is being able to know that if I have a challenge in any space, I have my people and they will not judge me. And so then thinking about the other part of it, you said people in my DMs, and like, they ain't in my DMs like that. Okay.
They be in mine.
They ain't, that's yours.
They be in my DMs all the time.
They're like, they're not in my DMs. But thinking about like, how are we showing up in these spaces and taking care of other people? Because one of the things I experience as a Black woman, this scarcity mindset sometimes, and a hyper masculinization that we have to have as we ascend in leadership. So we have to become more of the patriarchal, capitalistic, and like sending this masculine energy. Absolutely. And what that looks like is when you get to the top, if you get too close to me, you become a threat. So you're good as long as you're down here. We can be besties, we can be friends, we can kiki, we can have lunch. But as soon as you get to a place that you're either equal in power or I feel like you're a threat to the power that I hold sometimes, it becomes scary. And I extend us grace because a lot of times when you are the only one at the table, and you have been the only one at the table for so long, anyone else coming in may feel like a threat because of the harm that you get at all sides. You don't know who to trust.
Right.
So
Right.
I think for me, it's about breaking that cycle of harm in leadership
Mm.
for Black women in particular, and really nurturing the next generation. And I call myself proudly an auntie. My friends are like, I ain't an auntie yet, huh? I am. So love it. It gets me closer to being, what's between auntie and ancestor, where you just get to say whatever you want, like on the porch in your muumuu in the summer, that
Uh,
grandma that's yelling at people.
I don't know. I haven't gotten there yet.
Well, that's where I aspire to be. Okay.
I understand that. I definitely understand it. This is what I want to ask, because I think my revolutionaries want to know, like when you listen to this robust garden that you talk about, like that has been built over time and trust, um, gardens are built, and I said gardens are built with hours of time spent together. That's the thing, spending time together and pouring into each other. If I'm a young person, if I'm a young revolutionary, I'm just planting the seeds in my garden. What advice do you give to me in really building, so I can say when I get to be a Dr. Shameka Gerald, that I can start rattling off these folks in various sectors that have been a part of my garden? How do I even start to plant it?
I think for me, I had to allow myself to trust people and trust
Mm,
that their intentions were good. But I'm gonna tell you, it all for me goes back to ancestral knowledge and the gut. Um, so a lot of people that I consider part of my garden do not live here. They live like Antoinette lives in
Chicago.
California.
Okay.
She lives in California.
When did
I
she
live
move?
in Virginia.
Right.
A lot of the people in my garden, my best friend, Shawnee,
Mm,
lives in Kansas City.
right.
Like, I think the way that we communicate in the world now changes the way that you build
Mm,
your community,
like that.
because all of these people, we haven't spent tons and tons and tons and tons of hours in phase. Just like with Dr. Echols, correct? Like,
Yeah.
I have an immense respect for him. And I know that if I picked up the phone and called him and said, hey, Phil, I need X,
Right
and if
there.
he did this, he would do the same. But we have never met each other in person.
Right.
So you can develop, I just know who good people are, and I trust my
Yeah.
gut
Hmm.
in ways that I was taught that at a very early age, because I went to a Black Catholic school. So I was
Mm,
rooted in African principles. So I trust my gut. And that is what I think makes me an exceptional leader. But how do you build your garden? You have to trust your gut. And when something isn't good for you, no matter how shiny it is, and
mm.
Felicia talks about the shiny as a
Yes.
distractor,
Yes.
you have to be willing to make the revolutionary decision to not
Mm.
chase it.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
think that building the garden doesn't have to look like we're in community, like physical community constantly. It looks like, I said this recently. I'm reading Lamarad Owen's The New Saints. One of the
Mm.
things he talks about is the difference between joy and bliss. And bliss is like the sun shines all the time. We can't, like, it'll burn your skin.
Yeah.
Joy is remembering that the sun is shining, remembering the warmth of the sun, even when it's cloudy, even when the storms come, even at
Right.
night. Community doesn't mean that I have to be with you 24/7. It is, we're in community. And at my darkest, sometimes I remember my people got me, and that's the warmth. So I think redefining how we build community,
Mm.
and sometimes we villainize social media. Sometimes we villainize like the internet in ways like, oh, it's not human connection. But if we're really intentional about what human connection is and think about it and what it means to people, this is the tool that I've used. Like, I will send a voice memo in a minute,
Let me tell you.
talking crazy to my friends, like hyping them up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how you build community. I can send a picture, or we can be in a group chat. You can build community. We can see each other in person and hug and kiki and be loud and be our
Mm.
fullest
The
Black version of
fullest Black
ourselves.
version of ourselves.
Fullest in assembly. Savannah ready to put us out because people probably
Like, what is going on?
complaining
Why are
like
Charles and Shameka so loud?
all the time. And she doesn't judge us because she's from Newport News, so she knows.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I think they enjoy that. I think
Oh yeah.
yeah, because when we were gone, they were like, it's so quiet around here. Because you ain't got, look, you ain't got
We be
us.
back. I'll be back next week.
We back.
So I think redefining how you build community now is
Yeah.
critical. And there's a lot of stuff coming out about young people in social media.
Mm-hmm.
But when I transitioned into this role from Yellow, I called Felicia and told her, I just want to tell you thank you for pouring into me. And it was not that we were having these long drawn out phone calls. It was literally by me watching her lives.
Yes.
And me taking notes and being intentional. So I think that's what young people need to understand, how to use social media and these digital tools in ways that build community.
Yeah.
And trusting your gut around what is the right choice that you need to be making with people, one, and with situations. Are you going to be ordinary or are you going to be revolutionary?
Yeah.
The revolutionary path is not always bright and shiny.
Right. It is not. It is filled with it is filled with muck and dirt, because what happens is that if you can play in the muck and dirt and discomfort, that's the revolutionary version of yourself. The revolutionary version is not bright and shiny, you know what I'm saying? It's not wearing cavalli or whatever. It is in the mud.
Or Parisian loafers.
Yeah. Here you go.
Just saying.
Yeah, no, here you go. Here you go. Yes, I went to Paris this summer, revolutionaries. There's a couple of things that I want to just go even deeper with that you said. I feel like men, and I'm going to say me, is that we have hypothesized we have a harder time building community because of our masculinity, like this, our societals, that I need to be able to handle my trials and tribulations or whatever's going on by myself. Like my masculine, if you know, we have been attributed to our masculine energy, you should be able to take on the world, you know. And I actually said, you know, in my dating life, when a woman says to me, "Oh, I want to have a soft life," and my retort is, "I want to have a soft life too," you know. And yeah, and so that often tends to take people back when, "Oh, you're a man." When I walk out of 4747, I am armored up in the day. I am armored up, ready to go, you know? And throughout the day, I can look down and there are arrows and daggers and spies and, you know, and assassins all throughout the day. And so when I come home and I want to take that armor off, I do not want to have to put on a different armor to fight with you. I want a soft life too. So that's the interesting thing. So I think my hypothesis is that men asking for help, or men asking for, you know, do you got me, is something, at least it's hard for me at times, right? Taking on the world. And I think for a lot of men out there, and I have community, you know, and I've shouted out who my community is on this podcast so many times, and we have conversations. And I love to be in space, get on the bike, get on the Peloton. Like last night, I'm at the Cavalier with, you know, a new friend, Cara Jubilee. We are chopping it up, laughing. Then all of a sudden, the bros come, and you know, the bros get together, and it was just, when I got home, I was full.
Yes.
You know, and I was talking to my friend on the phone last night.
That's joy.
That was joy, and she was like, "You know what? We've only been talking for a couple of weeks, but I've never heard this version of you." She's like, "Usually it's that smooth, like, yo, what's going on? How you feel?" She was like, "But I hear joy in your voice." And that was something I had to remember. I was like, oh, this is what this feels like. This joy, this, as you said, the third grade version of me, that the third grade version of me got to go out and play kickball in the yard at recess last night, which happened to be a happy hour at the Cavalier, hanging out with friends, you know? And so it's an interesting thing to hear that. And then for you to be able to rattle off, like, I got this person, I got this community, I got this group of women. I think as men, we need to do more of building that, you know, I can call on Phil, I can call on my boy Quince, I can call on Dr. Elijah, you know, I can call on my line brothers, you know, to say and then remembering that it's okay for men to ask for help, because we get models of that every day from women.
Let me tell you though, a key thing that you said was remember. And so Yari and I talk a lot. One of the books is back here. I'm sorry. The Spirit of Our Work. I'm a book nerd, Charles.
Look, but see here, now everybody gets to see that's wonderful background that you've created, this oasis
that's my work from home, honey. 100% remote work
means I'm about to go
means
get a fake plant. If that's not,
it's real. It's real. So I was reading Cynthia Dillard's The Spirit of Our Work. It's Black Black women teachers remember, and the re is in parentheses. Because when you remember, it's because we have been dismembered.
Yeah.
So when you talk about, as a Black man, you know, women like, I want a soft life. You're like, you want a soft life too, with the understanding that we also are armoring up in ways when we exit into the world, that we have all of these slings, arrows that come at us. And we talk about dual consciousness, right? Du Bois talked about that. And when you think about it, as Black women, I'm gonna just say it, we carry more. Not only are we Black, but we are also women. So when you think about patriarchy and racism, it impacts us differently. But understanding too that we are saying, when someone says, I want a soft life, we have to also honor that you carry that same armor and you want to be able to take it off just like we do. But we have been dismembered from how we do that with each other in community. And we have to figure out how to remember it. And I love what you said about like, remember, like put that back together. How do we remember?
Yeah.
But when you talked about the idea of like this joy that you felt, the lightness in your voice, and then you said, you know, we see women do it all the time. That's why I'm appreciative of my brothers who are in this part of my beloved community.
Yeah.
Because not only do they have community with us, I'm not sure if it's always a model for them, but I also hope that it's a model for them.
Yeah.
And we have a group chat called Black Girl Magic. Greg is the only man in the group chat. But,
way to go, Greg.
But we call it Black Greg Magic too. But and I have another group chat that I'm in with some young Thundercats, some brothers that are in education, and I'm the only female. Some Black men who are younger than me, I am the only female. I lovingly call them the 2% because less than 2% of Black men are the population of educators is less than 2% is Black men. And so they're all administrators in different roles. And so I'm like, I call myself their auntie. Like when can I cuss on this podcast?
Yes, you can.
Okay, because when shit pop off and my phone light up, I'm like, where am I driving to?
Yeah.
Because I'm about to come up there and fight somebody. But I hope that it is like what you're saying is being in community with Black women. Like Black women are the blueprint for everything.
Everything.
So how do you take the lessons as Black men from what we're doing and then apply it in ways that make sense for you? Because it ain't going to look like how our eyes look.
Right.
But being willing to be open to the idea and being willing to say we need to learn from Black women is like the first step, because we are the creators of all things great. We are often behind the scenes, often overlooked, but we are the ones that when the marches are happening, we're cooking the spaghetti dinners. And we are also on the
civil rights movement. Yeah. Who held those brothers up?
Yeah, but we're also on the front line too. Some of us are on the front line. So it's also understanding this idea of where you are in this and what's your role. And so I just appreciate you elevating that. And I do think that more Black men are talking about their need for community, their need for safety and vulnerability. And as Black women, we have a responsibility to learn how to do that, because being a strong Black woman often means I don't need none. I don't need this. I can do it by myself. And as soon as someone has a falter or a misstep, it's like,
I told you.
Oh, you ain't no real man.
Right.
What is it? Like redefining outside of the constraints of white supremacy and patriarchy.
Yes.
What is a real man?
Yeah.
What a real man to me might be different to you, sis, and that's okay.
Right. Exactly. And so it is truly interesting, because these conversations that I'm having with some women is like, I'm doing all this, and and I'm sitting in my masculine energy, because I'm sitting in my masculine energy. But what I hear in that is that there's potentially you haven't met that person till that will allow you to sit, that takes and that you can sit in, and you'll have a partnership. I think there's a defining of what roles, as a masculinity researcher. Masculinity and femininity are constructs. We adhere to constructs. The interesting thing about Charles and Bertha Corprew, my parents, is that I used to say, oh well, mom and dad are dependent on each other, or codependent on each other. Well, that's a nefarious way of saying codependency is an issue. They were interdependent of each other. They formed a bond that was non-traditional. Yes, mom cooked, but dad cleaned and washed the dishes. You know, he ended up washing clothes. You know, mom would go out and cut the grass sometimes. She bought the groceries. He would bring them in. There are these things that created a life for each other, that they were married for 57 years. Was it always good? No. Was it always bad? No. But it was 57 years of working together to raise a child, to build a family, to build wealth, all of the different things that I think about. This is my model of what a relationship could be. You know, and let me take the good pieces, you know, the good pieces that I want to say, let me alleviate some of the bad pieces to try to create something that is beneficial for me. But it is interesting when, you know, if we drop back down to that community piece, like, what does community look like for us, and who do we need to make sure that we're scaling our lives and their lives? It is a reciprocal actions that happen for folks that allow them, because we cannot build this life alone. We cannot build relationships. We cannot build businesses. We cannot build churches, homes, and schools without each other, without having the faith in each other in what we're doing. So the second thing that I want to say, and I want to give a shout out to Felicia Hatcher, because both you and I have tremendous admiration for this woman, this human who God has gifted her with a sense of leadership that, you know, if I had to curb my social medias to 10 folks, right?
Number one.
Literally number one. Because here's the thing. She asked the most prolific question of 2023. Right? That came from, and if you have not, revolutionaries, I want you to follow me in all that I'm doing. I want you to follow Dr. Shameka, Gerald, and what all she's doing. But if you're not following Dr. Felicia Hatcher, you're missing out on gems and gold, because the question that she asked in 2023 came from Lovecraft Country. And and she never says this is something that she created. It is something that she internalized as a human, to say, wow, what's interrupting you? And the thing about that, the way that I internalized that, because if you can figure out what's interrupting you, you can answer my question. Because revolutions happen when you illuminate the barriers that are in your life that you want to change. Interruptions are barriers. And when I heard that, I had to ask myself, well, damn, Charles, what the hell is interrupting you? Because I know that you want to be here. You want to be here, and something is interrupting you from getting there. Yes, and we are lovers of dogs on the show.
Sorry.
No,
the fine. Window is right here, and I live in this almost assisted living facility.
We look, there are dog fans. You got to show the dog, if you could, you know what I'm saying?
He's a boxer in my desk. I'm standing right now.
Well, we love boxers. My first dog was a boxer. McKinney would give a shout out. Yeah.
Yeah, he's shouting out right now.
But Felicia is one of those generational leaders that ask you those poignant questions around, you can show up differently in the world by just figuring out what's holding you back. That's the question of 2023. What's interrupting you?
It's the question of 2024, 2025, 2026. Because I think when I was listening to Felicia before that, but when she did the live where she talked about where she got that, and I've done her masterclass, Has Your Genius.
Yes.
I think it's Genius Jam. I've got the book. I got all of it. I'm a Felicia Hatcher fan.
Right.
Fangirl. That's what we're going to call it.
Yeah, we fangirling. Yeah.
When I heard that question, that's when I started really journaling and taking seriously what was interrupting me. And then looking back in places where I was and where I felt interrupted, but I really wasn't. And now I look back on those situations, maybe I wasn't interrupted, but I was disrupted, you know? And that's where I started really digging in to myself and really centering in on what I needed. Because once you figure out what has interrupted you, you can change everything. She also talks about what if every light was green?
Yeah.
Every light is green. Like, the only thing that's making it not green is either I'm closing my eyes or I'm making the ordinary choice, which has all the red and yellow lights. Every light is green in front of me. And what was interrupting me, I found, And I'm going to give y'all a little secret.
Yeah,
The
tell us.
answer to Felicia's question is you.
You.
Like you.
You.
You. Maybe I'll do like one of those little things. I'm not really great at social media, but one of those little things, you know how you do like wait for the stitch, and it's like, what is who are you if you weren't interrupting? I'm gonna say, hey, you're interrupting yourself.
Yeah.
You don't have to do any real research. It's you. So get out your way.
Get out. You're right. You are
But
absolutely right. And every day I'm like, oh, it could be the phone, all the things, but I'm still the one holding this up. I'm still the one waking up like, ooh, let me see who texts me. Let me see what's going on. Let me read. No, this if I'm calling this the interruption, I'm still the one who had to pick it up.
But the thing is, so I had a conversation with someone about boundaries. They're like, oh, somebody violated my boundaries. I was like, no, they didn't, sis. You violate your boundaries. Because if your boundary is I'm not taking work calls after 6 and you answer the phone, who really violated the
Yeah.
boundary? They didn't. You did. You violated your own boundaries. We don't
Yeah.
often recognize or have the self-awareness or the willingness to say we are the problem. Like the thing that was, am I the problem? Yes.
Yeah.
99% of the time, you are the problem.
Yes. 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 And that's the thing. That's the internal work when there's a wonderful, wonderful book since, I'm talking to this like uber smart woman who keeps dropping books. I'm going to drop a book, The 15 Commitments to Conscious Leadership. And one of the things they say is that we take 100% responsibility of our, right? Everything happens, anything that happens, we have 100% responsibility. Now, everybody for an outcome has 100% responsibility in something, right? Everybody does. But if you can move to this belief that the world is by me and not to me, that is a game changer. And so, like for instance, if somebody says you made me feel a certain way, I have gotten to the point and says that I can't make you feel I can't make you feel anyway. Your emotions and feelings are your responsibility. And that for me has been revolutionary because I can say, "Oh, I feel this way," and I might even want to say, "Oh, you maybe," and then I stop and say, "No, you're allowing the emotion to happen. Now, what are you going to do with it?" And that for me has been a game changer in how I show up in the world.
And I think that is true. But I also think that there are people that, like you talk about putting your armor on,
Mm-hmm.
and there are people that create harm in the
Yes.
world.
Yes.
And my response to the harm is my responsibility.
Yes. Yes.
The
Exactly.
trauma occurred. My response is my responsibility, but also thinking through, like, you have to do a lot of internal work.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Yoli Seeley Ruiz, Archaeology of Self, amazing work. Mirror, she talks about mirror work, but how do you really, y'all go out there and look her up. That's my sis. Love her to life. But when you really look internally, like, yes, this happened to me externally and it was wrong. And it was all of these things. It was horrible. And it's my response to it that I have control over. So either I can internalize it and think, someone once told me, don't laugh, okay? Because I know you, because you're going to be petty. And someone once told me, well, you're not an expert. And I was like, oh, okay. Black man who said that to me. Okay. I could have, there was harm. I had feelings, and you're allowed to have feelings.
You are.
I don't want us to disqualify, like my response, like you're allowed to have feelings. You're allowed to sit in that feeling. You're not allowed to stay there forever. But then what is your response to that? I can internalize that and say, oh, I'm not an expert. I'm so sad. Or I can say, you know what? There may be some areas for growth and development in this particular area. I might have expertise. I might not be an expert. Do I want to be an expert? Probably not. Do I know enough about it that I can get up on the stage and talk about it? Absolutely. Yeah. So I think,
or really, you can just tell you can just tell that person to kick rocks.
Or you can move through the world with the spirit of a middle-aged white man and not know nothing.
Man, who you telling?
That privilege, I love. Like, that's my aspiration. What's your revolution? My revolution is I want to move through this world with the confidence of a middle-aged white man, because they confidence, right? But when you think about how, like, when you talk about armoring up every day, They not armoring up. They just walking outside,
Walking out,
all
look,
willy nilly.
walking outside with look. If they're Roman, they're just walking outside with the skirt, with the
Yes,
skirt and boots.
and the Parisian loafers.
Yeah.
Yes,
Parisian loafers.
they're
Yeah.
working. We're walking with those Parisian loafers.
Just chilling. Because you know what? Just
And
chilling.
throwing arrows.
Yeah, throwing arrows.
Throwing arrows, like saying things. So we are allowed to have our feelings,
Right.
but also with the understanding of what do we do with those feelings, and also with the understanding that I love a good turn the other cheek, but I'm more like Peter, and I'm more knuck if you bug. Because what we're
Right.
not going to do
Yeah.
is allow the harm to continue
Mm-hmm.
in ways that is going to be detrimental to me or my beloved community. So I will remove myself from a situation. Now, I wasn't always in this place. This is the more mature me, not the third grade me, but making choices that will remove myself from situations that no longer serve me.
Right.
So I think when you talk about like the response is my responsibility, it is, because it's not serving you. You have to make the choice
Exactly.
to stay or to go. And it's not an easy choice. I'm not like, it's not easy, but you have to make a choice. And that's when you go back to Felicia's thing, like, what is interrupting you? You.
Exactly. And that's the biggest thing. And the internal work, the shadow work, as we talk, that has to happen to get you to that point.
You
of
brought
being,
that coaching. I see you, coach. You
I
that
know,
shadow
right?
work.
You know,
You
that
got the
shadow work. Yeah,
coaching.
yeah, exactly. So a lot of shadow work goes on over here. Let me tell you. I knew this was going to happen. I knew that this was going to fly by. We might have to do like a part 2 of this, because there's still so
I
much
would love it.
so much that I want to get through with you. But that we will definitely have a part 2. But the last question, there are 2 questions I have. Like, I have to ask my signature question, but the question is like, revolutionaries, like, if you just happen to meet Dr. Shameka Gerald on the street, like, you just get the like opportunity, like, that's Dr. Shameka Gerald. Like, wait, you are going to be like enveloped in like the dopest style. Like, we need to sit back for a second, and like if you get a chance to just see her out in the wild, as we say, like, you're gonna be like, you made that work. Like, sometimes Shameka walks in, I'm like, okay, because one day you came in, like, yeah, I'm gonna say it, like, one day you came in and you look like Smooth Criminal.
I knew you were going to go there. I thought you were going to talk about
Smooth
my
Criminal.
moo and my sneakers.
No. One day you came in like Smooth Criminal with the double-breasted jacket and the black pants and some pewter Adidas. I said pewter.
Yes.
Right. I want you to tell my revolutionaries, because I mean, her style game is just impeccable. Like, literally, I'm like, yo. And her sneaker closet, she is a sneaker head. Like you got to just have a closet just for sneakers. I know your husband's like, what? But how did you get here?
The pusher.
Where does the style come from?
I think the style comes from self-awareness and just really being comfortable in who you are.
Yeah.
And it's a journey to get there. And I think personal style is also part of the revolution. When you think about some of the people that we talked about today, they have a signature style. Like, I am known for having a red lip, white glasses, big earrings, and sneakers. I can put on anything else, but people in curly hair. People can see me across a room and know it's me just based on this.
Yeah.
And I fought it for a long time, but evolved naturally. As a building principal, I wore heels to work every single day.
Yeah.
Every day. And I wore sneakers to the basketball games. My Jimmy Gerald is my sneaker pusher. There are very few sneakers that I wear that I have purchased myself.
Oh, wow.
We are a sneaker family.
Wonderful.
My son goes to a school where they have a uniform, but the sneakers are whatever you want to wear. So we govern ourselves accordingly. So he's got probably the freshest feet.
We got stock in Nike.
Got Nike, Adidas, anything that's fresh. We're willing to, But I think the style is an evolution of me being really comfortable who I am as a free. I'm not free yet. A Black woman who is moving in liberation towards freedom and working to do that with and alongside my people, for my people.
Yeah.
So I think my style is just representative of what you're going to get when you meet me. Dr. Charles is like, when y'all see me on the street, you're going to get joy. A lot of people don't get that from me because I operate from my gut. And what I will do is I have discernment, and it takes me a while to trust people because I love, you're going to get in the hand. I love super hard. And when you become my people, you are my people, and I will do almost anything for you.
Yeah.
So I think the style, I mean, today you would look at me like what you got on, but you know, it is what it is.
It is what it is. It is
what it is. It's who I am.
Beautiful
And
style. Yeah.
So I appreciate the nod, and let's not act like you're not fresh.
I mean,
Let's not act like you're not fresh.
I've been fresh. I've been fresh since '89.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Charles.
All right.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Charles. I've been fresh since Belle Biv DeVoe, since Boys to Men.
I have not been fresh that long. Let me just be clear.
Cooley High harmony. You know what I'm saying?
No.
That was my look. I like this blazer and jeans look. 35 years later, he's still rocking. It's just tailored. It's just tailored now. I just need to say this. Like, there are very few people that I meet like on the spot and like, damn, like I am just enamored and have so much respect and so much love for you in the short span that we have, been able to be friends. Like I don't meet folks like that quick and like, wait a minute, I love being in your presence. I love like talking to you about the world. Like you see the world, we see the world very similarly. We can have contrast and ideas and still, mold it together. Like when I say like that there's a level of respect and appreciation for who you are as a human, like when you say everybody don't get that, everybody don't get this. You know what I'm saying? And so the dopeness of who you are, the humanity that you show me and to the world and the people that I introduce you to, because I'm like, oh, you don't know her? You need to know her. Like I'm excited to introduce folks to you because that's who you are. I am happy to see the family. Like we didn't even get to talk about your relationship with your husband. That's part two, because I think that is so dope how you all work together to raise your son and uplift each other. That just seeing that from an adjacency is just amazing to see. But you are one of the dopest people that I have ever met. And that is saying a lot, because folks be like, he don't mess with me. Nope.
Nope. Don't.
But I need to ask you this, Dr. Shameka Gerald, what's your revolution?
I knew you were going to ask me this question. My revolution is that I'm not supposed to be here. I am a Black woman in America. My revolution is that I move towards liberation and freedom every single day for me and for my people. And the way that I do that is through shaking the system of education. So my revolution is that I'm going to make such a large dent in the system of education that even when I'm gone from this earth, they might not speak my name, but the system will be different because I was on this earth. So that's my revolution. I understand that the things that I want to tackle probably won't come to fruition in my lifetime. It's planting the seeds of trees that I will never sit in the shade of. That's what my ancestors did, though, because we're able to be on this podcast today because somebody was enslaved. And then they were free and they dealt with all the things to get us to the place that we are today, to have dope sneakers, to have tailored suits, to be able to travel to Paris, to get as many tattoos. Like they are like that is, but that's the thing, right? I want to make a dent in the world through education so that it's so much better for somebody else down the line.
Yeah.
And that they're able to stand on my shoulders because of the shoulders I stand on. Phyllis Wheatley, June Jordan, Alice Walker, Audre Lorde, Bell Hooks, Dr. Crenshaw, Kimberly Crenshaw, Bettina Love. Like I am here because there are people before me and beside me banging and shaking the system. And that's it. My revolution is I'm going to shake the system.
I love it.
While being Black and being
woman. and revolutionary, all wrapped up in
All at
one,
the same time.
all in the same
At
thing.
the same damn time.
Revolutionary is like, this is one of those episodes where you get gold from beginning to end. And as I said, like Dr. Shameka Gerald is a juggernaut. If the dictionary cannot find big enough words to talk about the human that she is and what she means to this world. So I am grateful to have spent this time with her. Check her out. Check us out. Please make sure you're going to what'syourrevolution.com. Check out all the materials that we have for you to help you figure out, what we think is the most thought-provoking question of your life. What's your revolution, right? And we are here for you, and we can't wait for all the things that we have in store. So be on the lookout, but, go out, answer the question, and then fulfill the revolution, right? Fulfill it. Don't let anything interrupt you, right? Don't let you interrupt you. We'll see you next time. I love you. I love you. I love you. Be good.